I almost opened the door because she sounded scared. That is the part that still bothers me. Not that someone knocked that late. Not even that she knew my apartment number. It was that she knew exactly how to make me feel guilty for not helping her. This happened last November, on a rainy night when everything outside looked black under the parking lot lights. I was living alone in a second-floor apartment in a quiet suburban complex. I still barely knew my neighbors. I worked remote customer support for a billing company. My shift ended at midnight, and that night had been rough. I had spent hours getting yelled at over refund policies I didn't make. By 11:30, my eyes hurt, and I realized I had forgotten dinner. So I ordered food from a burger place nearby. My apartment was small. The front door opened into a narrow hallway. The kitchen was on the left, and its light made a bright line under the door. The living room window faced the parking lot. I didn't have a door camera, just an old peephole. Around 11:40, while I was typing to a customer, I heard a knock. I checked the delivery app first. The driver was still 5 minutes away. The knock came again, softer this time. I took off my headset, more annoyed than scared. People got the wrong building all the time. The stairwells all looked alike. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. A woman stood outside in a dark hoodie. She was soaked from the rain, arms folded tight, looking down at her phone like she was trying to get it to turn on. "Hello?" she said. "I'm sorry. I think I have the wrong place." Her voice was shaky. She sounded embarrassed and cold. I kept the door closed and said, "Who are you looking for?" She stepped closer. "Matt. I'm looking for Matt. My phone died, and I don't know where I am." I didn't know anyone named Matt in the building. "There's no Matt here," I said. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Can I just come in for 1 second and call him? Please, I'm freezing." That was the first moment I felt uncomfortable. If she really was lost and scared, it made sense. But it was almost midnight, and I was alone in an apartment with no camera. I told myself she was probably drunk or visiting someone on another floor. Maybe Matt lived in 1B or 3B. I didn't want to assume the worst about someone asking for help, but I still didn't open the door. "I can call someone for you," I said. "What's his number?" She didn't answer right away. I looked through the peephole again. She was still staring at her phone, but her thumb wasn't moving. She wasn't trying to turn it on anymore. She was just holding it. Then she said, "Are you sure?" He said apartment 2B. My hand had been resting near the lock. I pulled it back. I lived in 2B. For a second I thought I had misheard her. "What did you say?" I asked. She lifted her head a little. "He said 2B, she said. He said you'd be awake." That line changed everything. Not because my unit number was impossible to know. Anyone in the hallway could see it. But the second part made my stomach drop. He said you'd be awake. I worked nights, but nobody in that building knew my schedule. I never had friends over late. I ordered delivery sometimes, but nothing that should have made me stand out. I stepped away from the door. The woman started crying, not loudly, just small, uneven breaths. "Please," she said. "I'm scared. There was someone in the parking lot. He followed me inside." I looked back through the peephole. She was facing my door, but her eyes kept flicking toward the stairwell to her right. Not behind her. Not toward the parking lot. Toward the stairs. "Someone followed you?" I asked. "Yes," she said quickly. "Please just open it enough so I can stand inside." The hallway outside my door was already inside the building. That was what didn't make sense. She wasn't standing in the rain. She was in a covered second-floor hallway, beside a stairwell she could run down if she needed to. Then I saw something move at the edge of the peephole. Only a shadow. A dark shape shifting near the stairwell wall. I leaned closer. "Is someone with you?" I asked. "No," she said immediately. Too immediately. I backed away from the door, reached into the kitchen, and turned off the light. The bright line under the door disappeared, My hallway went dark except for the glow from my laptop in the living room. I moved to the living room window and pulled the curtain aside just enough to look down at the parking lot. There was nobody out there. No man by the cars. No running vehicle. Just rain, empty spaces, and wet pavement reflecting the lights. Then my phone buzzed. The delivery app said the driver had arrived. I stared at the screen, waiting for the usual call or message. Nothing came. No buzz from the building entrance. No footsteps coming up. Then my phone rang. It was the driver. I answered in a whisper. "Hey," he said. "I'm downstairs with your order, but I'm not coming up there." My throat tightened. "Why?" "There's some guy standing in the stairwell," he said. He asked me which apartment the food was for. I didn't move. The hallway outside my door was silent now. Then the woman knocked again. Gently. "Your food is getting cold," she said. I can still hear the way she said it. Calm, almost irritated. Like we were done pretending. I backed away from the window and went toward my bedroom. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I told the driver to stay in his car and not bring the food up. Then I called 911. While I whispered my address to the dispatcher, the woman started talking again. At first, she went back to crying. "Please, I don't know what I did," she said. "Why won't you help me?" Then, when I didn't answer, her voice flattened. "I know you're right there." I grabbed the wooden chair from my desk and carried it into the hallway. I wedged it under the door handle even though I had no idea if it would hold. The dispatcher kept asking questions. Was I alone? Could I see them? Was the door locked? I could barely answer. Then, I heard a male voice outside. It was low and close, right beside her. "Try it now," he whispered. The doorknob moved. Not a little rattle. It turned slowly at first, stopped against the lock, then twisted harder. The chair creaked against the floor. I shouted, "The police are coming." Everything stopped. For maybe 2 seconds, there was no sound except rain tapping against the stairwell window. Then something hit the door hard enough to shake the frame. I stumbled backward and almost fell. The woman didn't cry that time. She didn't say anything. I just heard fast footsteps, one set and then another, rushing down the stairs. The delivery driver stayed in his car until the police arrived. I didn't open the door until an officer was standing outside saying my name. They searched the building and parking lot, but whoever they were gone. The next day, the property manager reviewed the parking lot footage with the police. That was when I found out the part that made me feel sick. The woman and the man had entered the building almost 20 minutes before my food arrived. They hadn't followed the delivery driver in. They were already there. They had been waiting on my floor before I even got the notification that the driver was close. The manager also told me another tenant in Building C had reported strange knocks 2 weeks earlier. A young woman had come to her door asking for someone by a name that didn't exist in that building. Everyone assumed it was a drunk visitor. I moved out 3 months later because I couldn't relax there anymore. Every sound in the hallway made me freeze. I still order delivery sometimes, but I tell drivers to leave it outside the building. If one comes to my door, I wait until I hear their footsteps go away before I open it. And whenever someone knocks late at night, no matter how scared they sound, I remember her voice through the door. "He said you'd be awake."